Good afternoon. This is Mike Edgerton again at the Key Largo Fire Department Museum. We are interviewing Rob Burley today, and Rob is a past fire chief with Tavernier. This is going to be probably episode 3 of the Tavernier series. We interviewed Rob Blesser, and we also interviewed Assistant Chief Benny Gonzalez. So, Rob, thank you very much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We have a long history together in the fire service, and we're interested in hearing your story. We'd like to start out and just talk to you, Rob, about kind of how it began for you in the fire service and how you kind of got involved in the volunteer fire department.
It wasn't that big of a story. I was working for the water department at the time.
Right.
And Rob Blesser was chief of Tavernier at the time. And he came over to the aqueduct to do a fire extinguisher demonstration.
Right.
It was one part of the training we was doing there. And after he was done giving us a little speech, he said, hey, if anybody would be interested in becoming a volunteer, come over to Tavernier on Wednesday nights. We have our meetings. And I'm like, you know what?
That's kind of how it went.
I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So I went over. This was, it was sometime between 87 and 88.
Sure.
In that time frame, and went over, signed up, and as we say, the rest is history. I've been there pretty much ever since, over 35 years.
Yeah.
I've been involved with Tavernier.
It's been a long time.
Still involved slightly. And then, from there, my career just kind of took off.
Talk about your ranking. Went in as obviously a firefighter, just like we all
firefighter.
start.
Yep.
And then tell us about how the ranking
Well, back then,
filed the rank.
volunteers, we didn't really have a lot of training issued by the state. A lot of it was just hands-on training, if you remember.
Right. Yep.
And then we started, the state come down and started doing that 30-hour, remember the 30-hour minimum volunteer course?
Yes.
Then it went to like 40 hours.
Right.
We did all those.
Then it went to 60.
Then it went to 60 hours for like an advanced thing. So firefighter, went through that training, did a little bit of medical EMS, of standard CPR, BLS,
Right.
Medical stuff. And then it was after Hurricane Andrew. I became a lieutenant before that. And then after Hurricane Andrew, that's when I became chief in 1993.
So you went from lieutenant to chief.
Went from lieutenant straight to chief.
Wow.
It was like nobody else really wanted to do it. Rob was in the middle of some personal stuff that he couldn't dedicate the time. Nobody else was really had the time or inkling to do it. So I
Right.
said, yeah, I'll step up.
That's fantastic.
And it just kind of like went from the frying pan right into the fire. Knew nothing. I mean, I knew what I learned from them for the few years, because that was from 85 years.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years is all I was really in when I became chief.
Yeah, we've been through a lot in Tavernier. I started in '88,
Yeah.
and I remember my first fire. It was the Islamorada trap fire, and I got my gear on. I remember the day vividly. I got my gear on, and you were pretty much my sponsor. And you said, get in the jump seat,
Let's go.
put on your gear, and put on your pack. And it was the first time I had ever put on a pack and a mask, and I was petrified. And we're driving down the road, and the wind blowing, going to Islamorada, and we pulled up to this thing, and you looked right at me with masks on and said, you stay by my side, don't leave my side.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And we did our thing, and that was the beginning of my career. So you were instrumental in my career, and I appreciate everything you've done for me.
You're absolutely welcome. You're good.
But so after that, you
Pretty much I stayed with it after that. I mean, from 1993. Let me go back a minute. I became chief in '93, but prior to that, either Rob was chief or Jim Dunn was chief at the time. I don't remember which. I think Rob was chief. Blesser was chief. And that's kind of how Fire Tech come about, because he and I were talking, and I used to come in and I'd mess around with the trucks. This was broken, I'd fix a light or change a bulb or do that. And he started saying, well, how do you do this? How do you know? I said, I don't know, I've just done it all my life. Growing up, I worked on everything. And he come up with the idea and said, hey, why don't, if you're willing, he said, you put up your tools experience and I'll put up the funding and we'll start working on these fire trucks, because there was no one here at the time, 1990, 89, 90.
right.
So that's how Fire Tech started, just from Rob and I talking BS.
That's awesome.
And we went from, I had a I had a little short bed pickup truck, and we had 2 toolboxes on it, and threw a bunch of hand tools in, and we went out and started doing it.
And then the certification started coming.
Then Rob Lesser and I were 2 of the first 50 certified EVT technicians in the state of Florida.
Wow.
We actually took the test here in this office.
Did you
Here in
really?
the station. Yeah, we came here and took the test.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Yeah, so after that, it was balls out for Rob and I. We did it over 25, 26 years.
Right.
We did fire tech together and fire service together as well.
As well.
Because I say in 93, I became chief in 93, and Rob was assistant chief for a long time then. Then he ended up moving to Key Largo and couldn't be the assistant chief anymore. And then Benny became assistant chief for the longest time.
Right.
And so we did that for quite a while. And it was fun. I mean, we had a lot of good times back then. It's not like it is today. It wasn't everybody with cameras, phones, and stuff like that. And not that we got away with anything, but it was just a more relaxed atmosphere. You didn't have to worry about somebody taking a picture of you and taking you to court for something that you may or may not have done.
Right, exactly. What were some good times out on the road with Rob or whatever? Any big calls that you can think of?
Yeah, actually, I kind of we did fire tech from 1990. I quit the water department and went straight into fire tech. Did straight fire tech from 1990 until 1998.
Mm-hmm.
At 1998, Larry Money and Jerry Tafoya were both working at Ocean Reef.
Right.
And they said, hey, we're looking for firefighter EMTs. Why don't you come up and apply? I said, I can't, man. I got a full-time job working the trucks. He said, it's only 24 hours a day. You still got 2 other days to do it. And they kind of talked me into it. And I went up and started working at Ocean Reef as a firefighter.
That's right. I remember that now.
So I was doing fire tech and Ocean Reef and volunteering at Tavernier. Yeah, it's kind of saved
we were
my
like
life.
A glutton for punishment.
My life was revolved around the fire service for many, many, many years. That's all it was fire service.
Yeah.
So I wasn't doing it volunteer. I was doing it for career. And if I wasn't doing it for career, I was working on the trucks.
Yeah.
But one morning I was going to Ocean Reef. The sun wasn't even up yet, and there was a call for an accident up on the 18-mile stretch, just not too far north, before the county line. And I got on my radio and I said, I'm at the 106. I'm going to head up and see what's going on. When I got there, it was a mess. Mm-hmm. Someone in a car was passing other traffic, and they ran into a southbound tractor and trailer loaded with gravel. It split the car in half.
Mm-hmm.
The motor flew out, went one way, and when I got there, like I said, the occupant was still in it, and he was deceased on the spot. We a couple flashlights, and you could see he had kind of a hole in his head. He got hit with something.
Absolutely sad.
So after that, we found the driver of the truck. He was fine. The truck went off the road but stayed upright. The cab stayed upright. The the trailer portion flipped on its side, and by that time, other people were starting to show up.
Yeah.
And there was Eric Steinmetz. He was a wildlife officer, FWC. FWC.
Yep.
And we were talking. I was like, man, this is crazy. Look at this car. It's just, motor was one way, the transmission was over here, and it's just like blown in half.
We always wonder how that happens.
It had been a terrific impact.
Yeah.
And as he and I were talking, he said, well, let's go check the truck, make sure it's not leaking any fluids or anything into the mangroves.
Mm-hmm.
So we're both talking about it, and we're walking down and we're shining our lights at the truck. As we're walking and we're talking, and we both at the same time, we both spotted something, and we both froze. And it's like, shit, that's a reflector off of another car. Mm-hmm. There was another car completely submerged under that tractor trailer, and the only thing that was sticking out was the rear quarter panel with a tail light. And we had a reflection from the tail light, and we said, shit, there's other victims in this thing. And that's when we started calling out everybody. Said, we need more people at this point. That's when Wet Team came up, and FHP was there, and the fire police at the time were there, and that lasted most of the day. That was a big to do.
Big scene.
And unfortunately, there were 2 other people in that car, and both deceased, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I heard the story. I remember seeing that car in Marathon when I was at the fuel station. I used to get fuel right there at the light at going out to Sombrero. Is Sombrero is the first traffic light?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Going out to Sombrero, just right by there was a Chevron station. Little old man, little old lady, they were going to a doctor's appointment in Miami, and they got killed on their way to their doctor's appointment in Miami. Man. That was really sad.
That's crazy.
That sticks with me pretty much.
It's funny because that same story.
You were there.
I was there.
I know you were there.
That same story Rob told.
Oh, really?
Same exact content.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly the same content. And
Wow.
the biggest thing that both of you talked about was the occupants of the car that was underwater.
Yeah,
And that's something else.
there is video of that somewhere of you all bringing it back to Wheaton's and cutting it open.
Right.
I don't know if you guys
Yeah, we
have that
did.
video.
We did. We did an extrication actually at Wheaton's too. Yeah.
You want to do it on scene.
Yep. But man, I tell you what, we had a lot of fun. It was it was a great time. Loved the banquets
And the 4th of July.
and the 4th of July.
4th of July were awesome. The
We're
parades.
also very competitive.
Oh yeah.
When it came to Tavernier and Key Largo and Alamorada at the Firematics,
Firematics
it was
always
it was something else.
very competitive. The Firematics.
But
I wish we could do that again, but unfortunately, those days are probably long gone.
I think they're long gone. I think we
were so
we
much
got
fun.
the best of them.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, no
Get
doubt.
everybody's families there and the kids all having fun, and like I said, all the firefighters doing the firematic competition, ladders, bunker drills,
Yep.
hose relays, all that kind of stuff. It was
Yep.
a blast.
Yep. Yeah.
So much
The 4th of July, I think, was a big deal for all of us
Oh, yeah.
as well. Rolling down the street and all the community coming out to watch us
Oh yeah.
roll down the street, and then we'd interact with them at the park over there and have hamburgers and hot dogs with them and let the kids play in the water.
Play in the trucks, play in
Yep.
the water. We used to put the dump tanks up and
Yep.
let them play in the dump tank, the drop tanks.
We do the big shower.
Use the ladder.
Yep,
The ladders
ladder
up,
trucks.
Spray them down.
But well, Rob, it's a history that has gone on for a very long time. Unfortunately, it's coming to a memory.
Unfortunately, it is. It's to me, it's gotten. I don't want to really say political. It's gotten to the point where the average person can't volunteer with the time needed to do all the training and keep your certifications active and keep all that kind of stuff going. Right. It's really hard to volunteer anymore.
It is.
Unless you've come from another department that you've already had that kind of training and certification where you can go and help out. Like, I'm retired from Alamorada now, but I still go and help out. And my plan is when I move up to North Florida, there's a small department there. Who knows? I can go there and it's like, can't do much, but I can run the truck. I can pump the truck. I can fix the truck.
We're not in the box yet.
I'm not dead yet.
Yeah.
But, I probably don't need to be going into fires anymore. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I still think I can.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't mean I should.
Me too.
Doesn't mean I should anymore.
Yeah.
But those were really good times. They were a lot of fun. Like the big barbecues we used to have in Tavernier.
Yeah.
We used to have these huge barbecues in Tavernier that took a week and a half to prepare for it. And
right.
All day long to cook the ribs and the chicken, and
yeah.
the community loved it.
Yeah.
It was a blast. But man, it was such a lot of work.
And then kind of Alamorada followed that suit for a while. I remember being over there for their barbecues and stuff.
They still do. They just early last month they did they called a give back now. They don't charge the public to come in and have hamburgers and hot dogs and stuff. And they do it at Founders Park.
Right.
But that used to be our big fundraiser. That's how we used to get money to buy all this stuff, buy the trucks and buy the equipment and buy the stuff we had, because we didn't have the funding that they have today.
No,
they didn't have that funding we have today.
Yeah, we fought for every bit of our funding.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you remember the boot drives and all that
Boot
other
drives,
stuff.
going to fire chiefs meetings and fighting with all the other fire chiefs for what you wanted.
That's right.
And sitting down there listening to everybody. All the other fire chiefs throughout the county always, I need this. No, I need that. Well, we only have this much money. Who needs it more?
Right. Yeah. Rob talked a little bit about that. Yeah.
And Joe London used to be there. Joe used to be a blast, man. It was with Joe London there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wish I could have. He was an instrumental part of this fire service. In Monroe County.
He did a lot behind the scenes to bring it from what it was to what it is. He helped do a lot of standardizations work back there when it became the fire marshal's office. He did a lot of work, and he did a lot of work bringing the departments together as well. And still friendly competition. Still, we think we're better than you, and you think you're better than them. And,
that's right.
Nobody's better than us. And
right.
But he brought everybody back together and kept the competition, but kept it as a friendly competition.
Right.
And made everybody better.
And he was
standardization of equipment. I mean, remember, Key Largo used to have Survive Air packs.
Right.
Tavernier had MSA, and I think Alamorada had Scots.
Right.
And we got on a fire together. We couldn't interchange air packs. You know,
Right.
nobody could do anything.
That's right. I remember that.
Remember, and same
Yeah.
with tools. Some of the tools.
I think Draeger was in there as well.
Yeah, there were some Draegers
Yeah.
hanging out in it, but that was back when you got what you got because that's all you could
right.
afford.
That's right.
You know, even if you bought it used, you bought it and brought it in because it's still workable.
Yeah.
And you needed it. You know? And the old snuffleupagus hose from the MSAs used to drive on the ground.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah.
That is funny. You'd get in a tight space and it would cut off your air, and you'd be
You bend the wrong way, and your
you'd
hose
bend-
would collapse, and you couldn't breathe again. You had to move your hand.
Right. Till you figured out what was going
Yeah.
wrong.
Oh, it's just my hose collapsed. I got to move the hose.
But
Yeah, those were good old days.
good times.
And the
but,
steel air packs too. Man, the steel bottles weigh
Heavier
twice
than-
as much as what
yeah.
the ones weigh today. Now they have twice as much air and it's twice as light.
Yeah.
You know, we were
Composite. We went to
2000,
composite after that.
2215 psi. Now they're 4500 psi.
God,
Doubled the air pressure in those tanks that they wear
Jeez.
now. It's amazing.
it's incredible.
But I just look around. I mean, I look at the equipment and stuff that we have throughout the Keys and the Upper Keys in general. We've got some really good equipment.
Yeah.
Some new equipment. So a lot of newer equipment.
A lot of battery operated
And
stuff.
a lot of battery operated. I mean, I travel now with Rob. We go all through Miami-Dade and Broward working on compressors, and I go around teaching at different places, still teaching fire tech stuff, EVT stuff. And I look at some of the trucks, and I look at them, and I think, and you guys got ratty equipment. You got some crap.
Yeah.
You know, and I start telling them what we got, and they're like, how the hell do y'all get that when you were volunteers? I said, we worked for it. That's how we
right.
busted our butt for it. And we didn't take pay, so
Right.
we had that extra money coming in to do it.
Do you still work at the fire college?
No, not anymore. I still teach.
I know you had a course there.
Yeah, I used to teach
course.
EVT stuff.
Yeah.
I do it with a friend of mine now up in Ocala.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he was in one of my first classes that I taught at the fire college for EVT, emergency vehicle technician certification courses.
Right.
And he worked for E1 back then. He was an E1 employee, and E1 was one of the first corporations that went through EVT.
Wow.
And then he picked up on it. He was a bubble mechanic like myself for a while after he left E1.
Right.
And he picked up on the fact that this EVT was going to be something needed in the future. So he started a company doing it. He's busy almost every week of the year
Wow.
teaching in Ocala.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
I just came back from teaching a Zoom class
Mm-hmm.
in Ocala. I was teaching people in British Columbia.
Wow.
And the furthest I've ever taught was Guam.
Wow.
I went to Ocala and taught the guys in Guam EVT. And I had to go in at 8 o'clock
awesome.
at night. 8 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning
because of the time change.
Yeah,
Wow.
because of the time change.
That's
So
awesome.
we taught via Zoom, and that unfortunately it was during COVID, so everybody was wearing masks and you couldn't see who was talking.
Right.
It was difficult. It
Yeah.
was difficult, but we muddled through that one, and we just did it. We do twice a year. We do a Zoom through EVT, and then the rest of the year we do live.
Right.
We go out and do live stuff. In fact, we'll be going to Kansas, and then we're going to Ohio Mechanics Association and Kansas Mechanics Association to teach.
So you're still currently doing it?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
still
that's
teaching.
awesome.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
still teaching.
great.
Yeah, we're doing that.
That is awesome.
And then,
Well, anybody that wants to, anybody that wants to get this EVT course,
If you're a mechanic
where
and
can
looking for
they look it
certification.
up? Where can they look it
It's
up?
online.
It's online?
Yeah, looking for EVT classes.
Okay.
EVT S1 is our company.
Okay.
EVT S1.
EVT S1. So
Yeah.
anybody looking to get that?
If you're a mechanic and you'd like to have it, it's not very expensive and it gives you some credibility. And
Sure.
That's why we do it. I mean, it gives them credibility. Plus, it also gives them a little bit of something to hang their hat on. Like I am certified,
Right.
so therefore I can get a little bit more money.
Right.
It gives them a little bit of a step up on other people. Plus, it shows the community and the department that they are actually doing the good work.
Right.
They know what they're doing. They're not just winging it.
Right. That's fantastic.
But yeah, I mean, the volunteer fire service, to me, it brought me where I am today. It's
Right.
done so much for me. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I look back and think sometimes like, man, I would have never gotten to do this or never gotten to do that. I mean, the travel that we got to go to.
Yeah.
Texas, we got to go to the International Chiefs Association in Dallas one year.
Right.
Were you there?
Yep, I was there
Yeah,
on
you
all
were
of
there.
them.
I mean, I remember you were there.
I went to a lot of them.
Yeah, it was.
We went to Kentucky. We went to
FDIC in
Dallas.
Minneapolis
Yep.
and all that kind of Dallas.
We'd go to
Orlando.
Avon Park to
Oh
some
yeah,
of the
Great Florida Fire.
yeah,
Oh,
Great
God,
Florida
we
Fire
probably
School.
shouldn't
Another
talk
whole.
about, shouldn't talk about the one in St. Pete that we went to.
I know.
I mean,
There were some bubbles
That's
involved.
for another. That's for
Yeah.
another.
I'm not talking
video.
about alcohol bubbles. I'm talking
Yeah.
about soap bubbles. Yeah. But yeah, those are all personal stories firemen have, and
But I mean, like I say, it's
a lot of fun.
I got a very good living out of the fire service.
Yeah.
I mean, between the volunteering was great, owning my business, working on the fire trucks was great, and then becoming a career firefighter was just phenomenal. I mean, I don't know any job that can be as rewarding as being a firefighter or paramedic.
Yeah.
I mean, you have shit days, and there's no doubt about it. You have days that you don't want to be there. You have days that you look back and say, man, I want to forget that.
Yeah.
And but then you have other days you look back and say, man,
I'm so glad I was there.
What a thrill it was to do this. I saved somebody. I got, you show up at their worst time of their life and you try to make it better.
Yeah.
And they appreciate it. I mean, I kind of lived both sides of the fence because I went into the police for a little while because I wanted to be a fire marshal.
I remember that.
So I went through the police academy and became a reserve officer with Monroe County. You show up in a police uniform, it's a whole other story than showing up in a fireman uniform.
Yeah.
They just the whole atmosphere changes just by the color of your uniform.
Yep.
You know, people are happy to see you when you show up as a firefighter. Not always when you show up as a police officer. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's my whole survival, my whole career, everything I own, basically everything I did was a product of the fire service.
Yeah. Probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my whole life.
It's still taking care of me today. I've got a pension from the state, from retirement from fire service.
Right.
You know, and so I get a little bit of that every month, and it's great. I mean, it's like I said, it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
It's demanding too, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah. One thing that you and I will hold probably close to our hearts, I know I do, is that you and I went to the very, very first fire academy here in Monroe County.
Yeah,
we were students of the very first one in Monroe County.
1999.
Yep.
First graduating class.
Yep. Matter of fact, there's a picture of it on our museum walls here.
I missed being
super proud of
the
that.
highest grade by 2 points.
Who was the highest?
Teresa Fletcher.
Teresa Fletcher.
I'm never going to forget that. She beat me out by like 2 points.
Yeah. A great paramedic, past paramedic here in Monroe County, and we miss her greatly. She's in Crystal River now.
Yeah, Denellen,
doing some Denellen, Crystal River. Yeah.
You know that. Wayne is going around doing the testing for the state fire college.
Really?
Yeah, he was. Okay. I just had a picture. Jerry Tafoya just posted a picture. He and Jerry, because Wayne went there to do the testing for the academy that just went through.
No kidding.
So he travels around doing testing for the academy, like how they come down from the state to test out our academy. That's what he's doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Super sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those guys have a long history down there in Layton, and had a good time down there as well.
Oh yeah.
But well, Rob, we really, really appreciate you coming by and talking to us and having.
Want to talk about that one other story?
I would.
That one. When Mike Alexander got killed?
Yes.
I think Rob, did Fletcher mention that at all?
Nope, not at all. Not at all. That was something else.
Sad night.
Tell us a little bit about what happened there.
Mike Alexander was when I was working at Ocean Reef as a public safety officer out there, we did EMS, fire, and security. Right. And Mike Alexander was a sheriff's office deputy that they put out there at night. So he'd come out and patrol the roads, and if anything serious happened, of course, we had actual law enforcement there to take care of it.
Right.
I wasn't working Ocean Reef that day. I happened to be home. And call dropped for a vehicle accident just north of the Circle K in Tavernier to 92. And we get there, and it's a cop car impaled off the side of the road by a tractor trailer. Right. And turns out it was Mike. He had come down to the station to do their what do you call it, their briefing or their roll call before he went to Ocean Reef. And from what I understand, there was a call out for a bolo for a drunk driver. So Mike turned around, pulled into 7 Acres, and parked there at 7 Acres to wait for the bolo to go by. And after time, never went by, so I guess he decided he was going to go back to Ocean Reef. And we don't know what happened. If he pulled out to go north or he pulled out whatever, but he got T-boned by a tractor and trailer and went down outside the road. And he ended up getting killed in that thing. Yeah. That was sad because first off, I knew him. Second off, he was one of our public safety people. He was one of us. Right. And it was just a bad scene. It was tragic. A lot of tears that night from a lot of grown men and women.
I was there. I remember that. I remember that scene. It was very tough for
And to know him personally,
Yes.
that was even sadder. To know the fellow and know he got killed, it's like, dang, that's awful.
Yeah.
There's another one that down there on Plantation Key when that other deputy got killed. Do you remember that one? That
No.
call?
Which one was that?
You remember right now is where it's where the Public Works has their Public Works on Plantation Key. It was right across from what's called the Sportsman Motel,
Okay.
about the 88-mile marker.
Okay.
There was he was actually a reserve deputy that got killed. They were riding together and they were going to a call.
Oh, that was on an Alamorada call where you went.
A
Okay.
Holiday Owl or something like that.
Yes.
And they got into an accident. They spun around. Somebody pulled out in front of them. They lost control and hit a big pole right there right there in front of the new Public Works. And they lost a deputy there too. I think it's
Cromeyer, right?
Cromeyer, remember him?
Yeah.
He got killed right there.
That's crazy.
Those are two deputies that I remember. That I was there that got killed. There's many more.
Rob, talk about the roads here in Monroe County and how they've changed as far as the, I remember we were talking a little bit about it with Rob and with Benny, the road system where it was north and southbound traffic, and then we were having so many head-ons.
Yeah, up on the stretch.
Yeah, on the stretch and whatnot. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, when I first came down here in 1980, when I moved to Keys, there was basically only one traffic light in the Upper Keys.
Right.
It was Tavernier McDonald's.
Right.
And they had a school light, but that was it. But Tavernier McDonald's, and then the 4-lane went to a single lane before it went over Tavernier Creek Bridge.
You're right.
And so now we've got 6 lights, and
Yeah.
and it 4-laned all the way past the high school now.
Right.
So the road system it's improved, but it's made it more dangerous, in my opinion, because there's more traffic now. And now they haul ass.
Yeah.
They're traveling down these roads so fast.
Yeah.
And they say the 18-mile stretch, the barrier, thank goodness they did finally put that barrier up. It prevented a lot of head-ons, but we still have accidents up there, which is the craziest thing in the world.
Because they're all going the same direction.
Yeah, they're all going the same direction, and basically the same speed. Why do you have so many accidents? They still have terrible accidents up there.
Yeah.
Because people doing something stupid. Passing you on the right, passing you on the shoulder, passing you on the turn lanes, all that kind of nonsense.
Trying to get ahead of each other.
And it was so funny because they'll pass you at the passing zones, and then when you get to Florida City at the traffic light, they're only one car ahead of you when you get there. It's amazing. It happens so often. Too.
Correct. Yep.
But the roads down here they have really gotten overwhelmed, I think, with vehicular traffic down here. It's just crazy.
It is.
It's just, since Hurricane Andrew happened, in my opinion, right after Hurricane Andrew, because it destroyed Florida City and Homestead. Mm-hmm. No housing left. The Upper Keys still had plenty of housing.
Right.
The people decided, well, they could move down and drive to Miami to work until their house was rebuilt. Well, when their house was rebuilt, they either sold it or whatever, but they didn't move back to Miami. They commuted, and that's when the Keys started blowing up, especially the Upper Keys.
What kind of message would you like to get out to people coming down from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and even north of that down to the Keys?
Just pay attention to traffic, man. I know you're here as a tourist and you want to look around. Pay attention to traffic. Stay out of the left lane. If you're going to go speed limit or below, move out of the left lane unless you're turning. That irritates me more than anything.
More than anything, yeah.
And that's what, and most people, that's how they end up getting an accident, because they'll take a chance to try to get around that slow-moving car and either hit another car or spin out or do something stupid. But just pay attention to traffic laws and really watch the roads. Because I myself was involved in an accident from a guy using a cell phone.
Right.
I was stopped for a school bus, and I saw the truck coming. I'm like, oh man, this guy's not going to stop. And I tried to move out of his way, and he clobbered me.
Yeah.
And found out that he was talking on his cell phone or texting on his cell phone. The only reason it picked my 3/4 ton truck up and turned me 180 degrees in the median. $22,000 worth of damage to my truck. And I think God put me there because there was a Jeep with a girl in a Jeep in front of me. And if he'd have hit her as fast and as hard as he hit me, she'd have gotten hurt bad.
Right.
So,
or killed, probably.
Or killed.
Right.
Or killed, because he didn't even touch the brakes when he hit. And like I say, it damaged my truck. Luckily, it was repairable, but $22,000 worth of damage. And I know that poor little Jeep would have never held up.
Right.
That girl would have probably got.
So message there is, keep a safe distance.
Yeah. Stay off your phones.
Right.
Leave them on. Just turn them off or leave them down. You can get that message later on. It's not worth your life.
It is. It is very
hands-free.
important.
You can do hands-free. Almost all these cars have hands-free headsets in them now that you don't have to worry about.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate it, Rob, very
Sure.
much for you coming by, and it was
Absolutely.
just absolutely wonderful to hear some stories.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so very much, and we're going to go on to our next episode. Hopefully, we'll get. We're gonna be talking to Mike Puto. We're gonna be going down the Keys.
Mr. Marathon.
We're gonna try. Yep, Mr. Marathon. We're gonna be talking to. William Wagner. We're gonna go up to Rome, Georgia. So we're gonna have some fun here. So, Rob, thank you again.
Yeah,
We
you're
appreciate
welcome.
it, and
It's fun.
we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.
Take care.